when I first heard the rumors about the phantom train that would appear on the tracks of an old, abandoned railway station at the edge of the small town of Harrowsfield. They truly believed. And it wasn't just some fool or an old man spinning stories by the fire. No, it was someone I trusted, a man who had worked for the railway for decades, Mr. Jensen. He was a tall, weathered man with eyes that looked as though they'd seen more than anyone ever should. He had warned me one cold night, his voice trembling just slightly as he said, "You should stay away from the old tracks, boy. There's something about that train. It's not like the others. It's not meant for this world." I had laughed it off, not wanting to believe the superstitions. But that night, my curiosity got the better of me. I decided I would see for myself. The station had been abandoned for years, and the tracks were rusty with neglect. But as I stood there, staring into the fog, a chill crawled up my spine. It wasn't the wind, it was something else. Something in the air, something that made every hair on my body stand on end. I waited. The station was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that presses down on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. The clock on the old station tower struck midnight, and that's when it happened. The first thing I noticed was the sound, the unmistakable clattering of train wheels on metal tracks. But there was no train. I scanned the tracks frantically, my heart racing. A train. A long, dark train with windows that shimmered with an eerie glow, like the reflection of something unnatural. I couldn't move. My feet were frozen to the ground, and my mind was racing. I wanted to run, to get as far on through the air. And as it did, I noticed something even stranger, the passengers. They were there, but they were not like any passengers I had ever seen before. Their faces were pale, expressionless, like they were dead. Their eyes were wide open, but they stared straight ahead, unblinking. They didn't look at me, not once. They didn't seem to notice me at all. It was as if they were trapped in their own world, in a place that no longer had any connection to reality. The train came to a stop right in front of me, and the doors creaked open. My heart was pounding in my chest. The air around me was thick with tension, the kind of tension you feel when something terrible is about to happen, but you can't stop it. And then, I heard the voice. It was soft, almost a whisper, but it came from all around me, echoing in my ears. "Come aboard," it said. "This is your last chance." I don't know what made me step forward. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was something darker, something deep within me that was calling out, urging me to board. Without thinking, I stepped into the train. The doors slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang, and the train jolted forward. I stumbled as it began to move, the entire world outside dissolving into a blur of darkness and fog. Inside, the train was cold, and the air smelled stale, like the forgotten corners of an abandoned building. The passengers didn't move. They just sat there, staring ahead, their bodies rigid, their expressions vacant. I couldn't tell if they were alive or dead, if they even knew where they were. But as I moved deeper into the train, I started to feel it, the weight of something terrible, something crushing, pressing down on me. It was as if I was suffocating, drowning in a sea of fear that had no end. And then, I heard it. A whisper, so faint I almost missed it, coming from one of the passengers. "Don't go any further," it said. "Turn back." I froze. The voice had been so quiet, yet so clear. It came from a woman sitting at the far end of the carriage. Her face was hidden in shadows, but I could see her eyes, wide, wild, as if she had seen things no human should ever see. I moved towards her, my legs shaking beneath me. What is this place?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes widened even further, and she pointed toward the back of the train. "You should have never come," she murmured, her voice shaking. "No one ever comes back." I was about to ask her what she meant when I heard a loud crash from the back of the train. It sounded like something, or someone, had been thrown against the wall. I rushed towards the noise, my heart pounding in my ears. As I turned the corner, I saw something that stopped me cold. There, in the back of the train, was a man. His face was twisted in agony, his body contorted in a way that shouldn't have been possible. But it wasn't his pain that terrified me, it was the shadow behind him. It was as if the darkness itself had taken shape, wrapping around him like a living thing. The man's screams echoed in my ears, but it wasn't until I looked into his eyes that I understood. He wasn't screaming for help. No, he was screaming because he knew what was coming for him. And it was coming for me too. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, and I felt a pull in my chest. Something was drawing me toward the front of the train, something powerful, something that I could not resist. My feet moved on their own, taking me deeper into the train, away from the man, away from the woman. I was not in control anymore. I was a passenger on a journey to the unknown, and I couldn't stop it. As I neared the front of the train, the lights flickered. A strange sound filled the air, a sound like the clanging of chains. And then, I saw it, the conductor. But he wasn't like any conductor I had ever seen before. His face was obscured by a dark hood, and his hands were skeletal, long and twisted like the branches of a tree. He didn't look at me as I approached, but I felt his gaze on me, and it was as cold as the grave. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice shaking. The conductor didn't respond. He didn't need to. I could feel the answer in my bones. The train was not headed anywhere in this world. It was a journey to a place where time had no meaning, a place where the souls of the lost were trapped forever. And now, I was one of them. The train began to slow, and I felt a sinking sensation in my stomach. The lights went out, plunging us into complete darkness. The only sound was the screeching of the brakes, a high-pitched wail that seemed to echo through eternity. And then, silence. I don't remember what happened next. One moment, I was standing there, trapped in the darkness, and the next, I was back at the station. The fog was gone, the train was gone, and the station was as empty as it had always been. My heart raced as I looked around, but there was no sign of the train, no sign of the passengers. It was as if it had never existed. But I knew better. I knew what I had seen. The phantom train was real, and it would be back. And next time, it might take someone else. Or maybe it would come for me again. I don't know if I'll ever truly escape. But there's one thing I do know: if you ever find yourself standing alone at that old, abandoned station, listening to the sound of a train that shouldn't be there, I beg you, don't get on. Don't make the same mistake I did. And if you ever feel the cold grip of fear wrap around you, if you hear that whisper calling your name, remember one thing: you're not alone. There's a whole world of people who have boarded that train, never to return. So, my friends, if you enjoy a good story, one that makes you shiver down to your bones, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You never know what dark journey awaits you next.